Hello there. This introductory webcast will be about laboratory safety. This recorded webcast will summarize laboratory safety details that you will find in the course syllabus and in your lab manual. You are expected to read the course syllabus and laboratory manual and be familiar with everything in them. This webcast is not a substitute for reading this course syllabus or the lab manual. One of the biggest parts of lab safety is being prepared for lab before you make it to lab. Knowing what you will be doing is the first step to performing an experiment safely. If you walk into lab with no idea as to what you will be doing, that makes you a danger not only to yourself, but to your partner and to everyone around you. This is why before coming to lab, you must complete your pre-lab notebook and your pre-lab quiz. If you fail to complete either of those things, you will not be allowed to perform the experiment. When you come to lab, you should bring a certain set of materials. These include your lab notebook, your safety goggles, a lab coat, a calculator, and a pen using blue or black ink. Anything else, including copies of the lab manual and your cell phone, should be stored outside of the lab in the provided lockers. There is just not enough space in the labs themselves to hold all of the materials you would normally bring to a course. Once you are in the lab, you must remember this rule. You must listen to your TA. They are there foremost for your safety. One of the things your TAs will be doing is ensuring that you are wearing proper attire. TAs can and will ask you to leave if you have not worn the proper clothing and or brought the proper safety equipment. This is more than simply having it with you. You must also wear the material correctly. For example, goggles must be worn over your eyes at all times. They do not do you any good if they are resting on your forehead. Similarly, lab coats must be on and buttoned at all times. Your feet and legs must be completely covered. That means full-size pants or skirts and shoes that cover the entirety of your feet. If you have long hair, it should be tied back so as to avoid being dipped in or tipping over materials in the lab. Similarly, you should have no dangly clothing, scarves, oversized lab coats, neckties, bulky sleeves, things like that. These type of things tend to knock lab equipment over, potentially causing a safety hazard. Let's talk about goggles first. Here are a number of different types of safety goggles. Not all of these goggles are acceptable for you to wear in the laboratory. For example, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, we have what are more correctly called safety glasses. These glasses are designed to protect your eyes from impact. They will not protect your eyes from spills, and so safety glasses are not acceptable attire. Similarly, in the bottom left corner, we have a set of typical eyeglasses with what we call side shields. Again, these are designed to protect your eyes from impact, but not from spills, so these are also unacceptable. You must wear lab goggles of the type that you see in the upper right and in the bottom right. These lab goggles create a seal around your eye, so that even if you spill something on your face, the liquid cannot drip down into your eyes. As mentioned, these must be worn properly at all times. Your TA can and will deduct points from your lab score for continuous improper use of your goggles. The proper type of lab coat must also be worn. Let us look at the lab coat on the left. It's buttoned up correctly, but what's wrong with it? The problem with this lab coat is it is too short. Your lab coat must reach down to about your knees. That provides the maximum amount of protection for most of your body. Knowing that, you can probably tell what's wrong with the lab coat in the middle. The lab coat in the middle has short sleeves. Your lab coat must have full sleeves. Having full sleeves provides the maximum amount of protection for your body. The lab coat you should be wearing should look like the one on the right. This lab coat has full-size sleeves, it reaches all the way down to almost the knees, and fits properly. Do not wear a lab coat that is too small or too large. As with lab goggles, TAs can and will deduct points from your experiment score for improper use of lab coats. Your lab goggles and lab coats are only one layer of safety. The clothing you wear underneath them is just as important. As mentioned previously, a proper lab coat provides maximum protection for your body. The clothing you wear underneath must also provide the maximum amount of protection for your body as possible. So for example, things like shorts and capris are unacceptable. They do not provide enough coverage for the lower portion of your body. Similarly, sandals and slippers are also unacceptable. They leave exposed skin and thus do not provide enough protection for your body. This list here is not an exhaustive list. TAs have the authority to decide whether attire is appropriate or not. Ensure you read your lab manual so that you know what we are looking for when deciding whether attire is appropriate or not. And if you have questions, you can ask ahead of time. At the end of an experiment, you will always have waste. You will always have leftover stuff that you have to get rid of. This waste must be disposed of properly. Different types of waste go into different containers. You can read about what types of waste go into each waste container in your lab manual. Inappropriate mixing of waste streams, or in other words, different types of waste, is a safety hazard. If you don't know where your waste should go, don't be afraid to simply ask your TA. Remember, they are there primarily for your safety, and they will be happy to tell you into which waste bucket to place your waste. If TAs see you disposing of waste in an improper container, they will deduct points from your experimental score. It is better to ask than it is to lose points. At the end of every experiment, you and everyone else in your section must ensure that your lab is clean. There are portions of the lab, such as the weighing balances, the sinks and the waste disposal areas, and so on, that don't belong to any one person, and as a result, they tend to get messy fairly quickly. These community areas do belong to all of you, and so all of you are responsible for ensuring that these areas are clean and organized. To reflect this, your TA will grade the cleanliness of your lab after the end of every experiment. These lab cleanliness points will be the same for everyone in the section. Before you leave, ensure that all community areas have been cleaned appropriately. The rubric that will be used to assign your lab cleanliness grades can be found on the course website. As mentioned throughout this webcast, there are many penalties that can be given if you do not abide by the safety rules. In addition to the situations we have discussed in this webcast so far, your lab notebook experimental score can be reduced as a result of other safety infractions. Examples can be found in the course syllabus. Each infraction will reduce your lab score by 10 points up to a maximum of 20 points per lab. If you continue to commit infractions even after losing 20 points, you may be dismissed from the lab and forfeit all lab points associated with that experiment. To get you up to speed at the start of the course, there will be a lab check-in. Lab check-in is mandatory. Any student failing to attend the lab check-in and safety orientation will receive a failing grade for the course. Lab check-in is where you will meet your TA, be assigned a lab drawer, and locate important safety equipment inside the laboratories. If you know that you will be unable to attend check-in, you must give prior notice to the instructor with proper documentation for an excused absence to avoid an automatic failing grade. Check-in procedure can be found in your lab manual. During lab check-in, you will locate important safety equipment within the lab so that you know where they are and how to use them. That brings us to the end of this webcast. Remember, above all else in this course, safety is a priority. Ensure you listen to your TA, keep an eye on each other, and exercise good common sense.